Hello, everyone. Hello again, everyone. I think we're.
Are we okay now?
I think we're okay now. So I'm going to start today with. It has nothing to do with age. It's the name of book, my first book.
Good example of it here too today.
It's a very good example, and I'm turning to chapter 2 in the book of Triumph and Tragedy.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm turning to page 24 in the second chapter. And I'm going to read to you just a little bit, and this is going to be the introduction. I entered a 25-mile limited distance endurance ride in early 1997 called the Mustang Classic at Mount Hamilton in San Jose, California. This endurance ride hosted a ride and tie event at the same time as the endurance ride. I had heard about ride and tie and was under the impression that it was an event only for elite athletes.
It was.
And how?
Let me finish, please. I thought that anyone who participated in this event was likely to be lean, tall, and a superior runner.
You got that right.
Thanks. Foolish me. I did not think about the necessary equestrian skills that would be needed as well. Your punchline.
Oh, well, I'm thinking.
At this time, I was not running nor in great physical condition. I think subconsciously I was entertaining the idea of competing in a ride and tie and that those thoughts were just waiting to erupt to the surface.
And there we go.
I completed the 25-mile limited distance endurance ride and waited for the awards dinner that followed. Camped next to me.
We're two of the elite runners that you were talking about.
I didn't write that. We're two lean, bearded men. Something's not working right now.
What's not working?
There were two bearded men.
Yeah, I know. One shaved.
One shade.
Tony Brickle.
That would probably be me.
That'd be you. And Jeff Windeshausen.
That would be me.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop it.
Clean shaven now.
Clean shaven. At this point, I'm going to stop with the rest of it. But I could go on. But anyway, Tony and Jeff were partners, ride and tie partners. But before we get into the ride and tie partner and the elite runner part of it, there's a quote, Jeff, that I'm going to read to you. And I'd like you to respond to see if this quote has any meaning for you and your evolution.
Okay.
And that's a word that we talked about earlier.
That's right.
Okay. And this is from F. Scott Fitzgerald. Vitality shows not only in the ability to persist, but in the ability to start over.
Well, we did start over a few, huh?
Well, that's what I'd like for you to talk about, if you like.
Well, you know.
Well, how do you want to start? Where do you want to start?
Well,
starting over.
You know, starting over. I used to be a smoker before I knew you, you know. And then Dave Poston, you remember, was a neighbor.
Okay, what year are we talking about when you first met Tony?
Oh, no, I don't know.
It's hard to say. Would have been at Dave's, probably.
Dave Poston?
Or an
Probably,
endurance
yeah.
ride.
Yeah,
I
endurance ride.
remember seeing
I
you
know
off and
we've
on
seen
in
you
endurance
on
rides.
endurance ride,
and-
yeah.
yeah.
But I started with Dave Poston in the mid-70s, I think, and he talked me into doing a ride and tie with him. I hadn't ridden a horse in many years, and I was a smoker. But decided to quit and did that first ride and tie in by Truckee, and by God, we finished.
You and Dave.
You and me and Dave, yeah,
On whose horse?
on one of Dave's horse.
Do you remember the name of the horse?
Oh yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think it was Red Chicaro.
Okay.
It was his horse, which I bought the horse from him. And anyways, we finished, I think, in 100, in position 100. But we were in the middle of the field.
There were 200 people.
There were 200 people in those
200
days.
teams.
Yeah, 100 teams.
So this was
200 teams.
this was obviously a championship.
Yeah,
Because that's all there were
yeah,
back then.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, they were not every other week like it became later. But
So how did you do so well?
well, we practiced, and you know the crazy part about practicing. When I started running, I ran in long Levi's, thinking the day of the race, when I have shorts, it will be a lot easier. I'll be faster. So I trained in long Levi's.
Okay.
In those days, in order to do the Levi ride and tie, you had to wear some Levi
Garment of some sort.
garment
yeah.
of some sort. Yeah. Needless to say, at the end of the show, the award ceremony, I go up with a Wrangler shirt,
Wrangler.
and believe me, Bud John knew it, and he said, "What kind of a shirt are you wearing?" I had no clue. The difference between Levi and Wrangler to me was
The same thing.
it
Yeah.
was a shirt, you know. But anyways, Bud John knew it.
It was blue denim.
No, it was not blue denim.
Wasn't even blue denim
It
then?
said something. Someplace it
Said
said
Wrangler on
Wrangler.
it.
Yeah, but the shirt wasn't blue. Basically,
was
those
not.
shirts back then were
No.
they weren't blue denim.
No, not that.
Red denim, pink denim,
No, not pink. It was not polka dots.
not polka dot. Okay. Anyway,
Plaids, I think. I don't remember. But anyways, and then from then on, we did it every year for 5 years with Dave. And
70s,
in the late 70s, yeah.
late 70s.
70s.
Started in Truckee and then,
So Tony was just the baby then.
I wasn't even doing endurance rides.
no,
then.
no.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, let's go back. So let's say, okay, so what you had ridden prior,
very little in Belgium. You know, sat on a horse a few times, let's say, but that was it.
Belgium. Okay, let's go back to Belgium, and then we're going to come back to Quicksilver. Let's go to Belgium. Okay, so you're born in Belgium,
Born and raised in Belgium, yes.
and how many years did you stay in Belgium?
I was born in 38 and left in 1963. Was
So
25
you
years
went through the
25 at that
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Okay.
so you went through the Second World War.
Yes, some people say I was part of the cause of the start when I was born in 38 and it started the chaos, you know.
So what did your birth have to do with it? Tell me.
Nothing.
Well, would you able to talk a little bit about?
The war.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
because
when
you're
it
little.
was-
You're
when
really
it was
little.
over. I was 7 years old.
Okay.
I remember not D-days, but I remember the final push of the American troops going through the village where I was, and it was just like in the movies. We were in a house on one side of the street, and on the other side of the street were German soldiers inside the house, and the GIs would come underneath the window, toss a grenade in, and you see
Really?
things fly out of the windows.
And you're
doors.
watching this.
Well, we were across the street, so we were safe. We figured we were safe. Kids don't realize,
Well,
when
yeah.
you don't realize the danger.
What were
That's-
your parents doing at this
Well,
time?
I didn't have, my dad died before I was born, so,
Okay.
I was just living with my mom and my 3 brothers, but we were living in somebody else. It was our house that we were throwing the
They're
grenades
throwing
in.
the grenades
but
in?
Our house didn't have good cellar. So we were across the street in a house that had a cellar with much thicker wall. So that's where we spent. When we heard the cannons and the shooting going on, everybody goes in the cellar.
Do you remember what it was like with being occupied by a... Do you
Not
remember-
really.
You don't remember that?
No. I remember after the war when the GIs were staying in the village. You know, that's...
What do you remember about that?
Well, that's, you know, it's one of the memories I don't like to talk too much about. That's where I lost my brother from one of those. He was thinking that he got some kerosene for light the lamps, you know, and there was no electricity, but it was gasoline. And they went into a barn to see what it was, him and his buddy, and they lit a match to see what it was, and
Wow.
it blew up. You know. I mean, the barn caught on fire, and
caught
that
on
was
fire.
it. You know.
Are you the...
Unfortunately, the gas tank was there, my brother was here, and the other guy was there, and the door was there. So my brother went that way, and he couldn't get out.
Are you the youngest?
I was the youngest,
You're the
and I'm
youngest.
still the youngest, yeah. He was, the brother that died there was 2 years older than me.
Okay.
2 years older than me.
So do you have other did you have other brothers?
We were 4.
There's 4 of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have one brother left in Belgium. That's he's 84, and one brother in Sacramento. That's 82.
So 3 of you survived.
Yeah.
Your mom survived too?
Yeah. No, mom died when I was right after the war, 2 years after the war.
After the war.
Yeah.
But not during
In
the...
47, yeah.
Connected at all to her death, connected to the war at all?
No, she died in childbirth.
Oh.
So
So you
would have had a little stepsister.
okay. So you grew up with in-laws.
My godmother raised me. My
Godmother,
mother's
okay.
sister. You know,
All right.
my brother went to one of my mother's sister, my other brother to another one, and you know, we were split up as soon as when my dad died. My mother took care of us but when she died in 47, then we were separated.
What was that like, being split like that?
I mean, it wasn't bad because I was living with cousins that I would see. In those days, families stuck together a lot more than they do now, I think. You know, we would go and visit every weekend. We would go and visit some of my mother's brothers or sisters. That
Okay.
was
That was
standard procedure.
that was the entertainment or the what
Yeah,
you do.
yeah.
So different village
Yes,
or different
yeah,
town.
yeah.
So did you grow up in a small town or?
Well, the town I grew up most of my young years was at the time 5,000 people.
Small.
The little village was maybe 300 people when we were 5 or 6 miles away. My mother was a teacher, so during the war, all the men teacher were either taken prisoner by the Germans or they were in the Belgian army, let's say, you know. And
Underground?
So, yeah, or underground. And so my mother was a substitute teacher, and she went from village to village to teach. So we did a lot of moving, always in the same neighborhood, you know, within 20 miles of you know, circle probably, but a lot of different little places, you know.
Okay.
So
What was yours? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you spent time in the Belgian army.
yes, I did
You-
my
you-
my
you had your-
time, yeah. When, you know, everybody got drafted in those days, everybody did their time. That's you know, and I was probably 21, 22 when I went in, because I was still in school between after my regular high school. I went for 3 years in a trade school to learn to be a machinist
Yes,
or electrician. You know.
I was going to ask you about school. What school was like during the war? Was it interrupted
During
then?
the war, I remember, you know, being in class with my mother. That was not a good thing, you know, because you got in trouble in the classroom, and then you got in trouble at home again. You know?
Well, you didn't get in trouble in the classroom, did you?
Well, I was not a model student, definitely not. You know, not a model student.
Not a model student. What kind of things did you do?
Spitballs and you know whatever,
Spitballs.
rubber bands or
Really,
whatever.
really. Okay. I'm just curious about World War II and growing up in a village and with the war and how disruptive that would be in terms of family.
Well, luckily, you know, the little town I was talking about was in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge, which was not a good place to be
Not
at
a
the
good
time.
place.
No.
No.
And if you see pictures of what I call my hometown, because I was born there, right after the war, I mean, all it is ruins. You go down the street and all the houses are
Are gone.
halfway standing. There's only skeleton of walls standing up.
So your house is not there.
But nobody in my family got hurt, Tony.
No
That's
one.
very
No
lucky.
one in my
Just-
family. Directly from the bombing, let's say.
Isn't that amazing?
The only one was my brother. 6
was-
months later, just in a
In
stupid
an
accident.
accident, yeah.
Do you think that you're affected politically by what happened back then in the 40s?
I don't think so. As a kid, it didn't mean anything to me.
It didn't mean anything to you.
Nah. We were, playing like kids play.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's this shooting 2 miles away. You can hear the cannons and the tanks, but kids just
You probably thought it was exciting in some ways. Yeah.
I remember going and talking to the GIs, watching an ammunition dump, while 2 of us would talk to them to get chewing gum, and 3 of them were going around to steal some,
Okay.
and then make a pile of, powder and light them on fire.
I'm glad I wasn't your teacher.
So, and again, doing those things that a lot of people got hurt doing those kind of stupid things, but none of my friends or the gang that I was running with, nobody ever got hurt.
So lucky. You
Yeah.
just really, really lucky. Okay. So then when the war ended, what was that like? Because now you're with relatives.
With my godmother, and
godmother.
which was my mother's sister, and raised. She had 7 kids of her own, so one more to feed
Yeah,
doesn't make too big of a difference.
Big family.
Yeah, big families in those days. So most of them. So was raised with them and going to school, and then came home one day from the little school in my little hometown and said, "Well, next year you go to a boarding school."
Really?
I said, "No, I don't want to go to boarding. You're going to boarding school?"
How old are you at this point, roughly?
12.
12. You're going to a boarding school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then for 5 years you can just about say it was a jail, because you don't get out for 2 weeks. You are in that school there, and everything is. You get up at a certain time. You have breakfast. You go to church, to mass, and it was a Catholic school.
Okay.
And then class and lunch, and then sure you go and play on the playground a little bit, but then you go
But they
study.
lock you in at night.
Lock you in, and then you go at night in the dorms, and
So you said every 2 weeks. So what? Every 2 weeks.
every
you got
2
to
weeks
go
you
home?
were allowed to go home for the weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
And unfortunately, Tony, they would release you Saturday noon. My train to leave to go home was only at 8 o'clock at night. So I was almost the only one locked
Right.
in that school waiting for 8 o'clock in order to go to the train station. So I was not really a happy camper there.
Not happy. No. Then you had to be back.
And then you had to be back Sunday night because
So yeah, you had no time at all then, really, at home.
very little time at home for those 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you survived that.
But,
you survived that experience.
Yep.
Was that in some ways harder than the war?
I would think so, yeah, because I was a little older. I would realize what was happening. When you're 5, 6, 7
Yeah, right.
years
You
old.
really don't. Yeah.
know.
Okay.
But when you are between 12 and 18,
Was this an all boys school?
oh God, yes.
Oh,
God.
on top of it, right? On top of it. Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, there was no such thing as
Girls.
girls in mixed school, that didn't exist in those days.
Okay.
So you were there. Well, at 25, you decided to.
Let's talk about the
You
machine,
wanted to- the
the
machine.
trade school. I want to hear a little bit about.
When I finished that high school, what do you do after that? That's the
Okay.
I would not have gone to that. I would have rather have gone to a trade school right from the beginning instead of going to that boarding school. Then at least you learn something. If I had started 3 years earlier to that trade school, I would have ended up an engineer.
Oh.
Okay.
But I started 3 years too late, so I ended up a technician, what we call technician in those days. So
So your options were limited based on
yeah,
when you entered.
because,
And you probably didn't know that.
no, at the time I didn't know, and I'm sure they had good intention, but they wanted me to finish high school,
Right.
the regular way. The trade school would teach you the same thing they teach in high school, but you would have time to learn the mechanics and
Correct, yeah.
the machine and the electricity, and but not in that other school. So, anyways, I went to the trade school for 3 years and came out.
What led you to the trade school? Was that your idea or?
Yes, because by that time I was 18. Then I went to live with my brother, my oldest brother,
Okay.
who was married and had 2 little kids, and he had, my godmother eventually said, you can go now and live with your brother.
Okay.
So then him and I talked a little bit, and he said, well, I think I would like to go to it. I like to do something with my hands.
Okay.
Good.
So, well, there was one not too far away, and went to that school and for 3 years. And
We-
then when I got done with that, I had to go to do my military time. So
Okay. We had a Montessori teacher
Right.
here. So you would have been good Montessori because you like to work with your hands.
yeah,
And so the traditional school back then
yeah,
wasn't a good fit.
no, was not a good fit for me.
Right. Okay. So you knew that you wanted to work with your hands. So that led you.
Yeah,
Okay. So, but you saying you could have been an engineer.
yeah, and I could still have done it, but
But
after I was done with my 3 years, I found a job
Right.
right away, and I started to work. But then I was 21, 22, 23, 25. Started to think a little bit, and at the time the Canadian government was coming through my little town, and not just my little town, through Belgium, looking for young
So they're
men and
actually
women with a trade.
Recruiting people.
They were recruiting people, yeah. So
you went to Canada?
I went to Montreal, left Belgium to go to
Montreal.
Montreal, Canada, yeah.
Okay. So before that, so what were your skills at that point from the trade school? What were you able to do?
Well, the school I went to, I could work as a machinist, which means not repair cars, but the lathe and milling machine, and also electrician. So I worked as an electrician in Belgium for 2 years or so.
These are good skills.
Yeah, so, and then when I went to Canada, because of the union. In order to be in the union, you have to have a job. In order to have a job, you have to be in the union.
Okay.
You do the trip 3 times, and I said, well, I better look for something else.
Yeah.
So I looked for.
You couldn't get in the union? You couldn't get in the union?
Because I didn't have a job.
You had to have
Right,
a job, but
right.
to
You
get
had
the
to have
job,
a
you had to
job,
be in the
and-
union.
Couldn't get in the union.
So you go to the same office 3 times, and then you say, well, forget it. And luckily for me, I had another trade to go back to. So I found a machine shop that was looking for
For employees,
Pill-
yeah.
to work on the machine.
In Montreal?
To make parts, yeah, in Montreal.
Okay, so how long were you in Montreal?
1 winter and a half. That's the way I like to say it.
It's cold.
Yeah, it was just too cold for me to stay there. And after the first winter, let's put it that way, I started the paperwork to immigrate to the state.
So when did you think about moving to the U.S.? Do you remember what point that was?
After the first winter in Montreal.
After the first.
The first winter. And it took, almost it was the beginning of the next winter when we finally left. That's
Okay. That's fairly quick, though. That's
well, 6
fairly
months or
quick.
so.
Yeah,
That's what
6
it
months,
took. Yeah.
How difficult was it to get?
In those days, not really too bad. I mean, and luckily for me, I was at the time there were quotas. They only took so many people from different region, and Belgians were rated okay, so
Okay.
it was okay.
Okay. So, up to this point, had you ridden a horse?
No,
Not on a horse.
No.
Not even in the army.
no.
No cavalry in Belgium.
Well, no.
No cavalry. Okay. So we're from Montreal. Where did you go?
Directly to Sacramento and
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Was that a choice, or was that?
well, my middle brother, let's say, that the second oldest, was, when I left Belgium, he was already in Saskatchewan. But when I left Belgium, he had started his paper to come to the States, and he was in Sacramento.
Okay. So you went.
So I
followed
had,
him,
I had something there. So I stayed for, was married at the time, stayed with him for maybe a week or so, and immediately found a job and an apartment. And
Why did he want to come to Sacramento?
well, he was in Saskatchewan, that was even
Colder.
And Sacramento was you're not too far from San Francisco, not too far from the ocean, you're not too far from the mountains, and he likes the heat, so so do I. So I wouldn't want the weather, to me, that's ideal conditions here.
So what year roughly are we talking about?
I came here in '65 in Sacramento.
65. So you're still a young guy.
Well, on my,
You're
not
revolving.
on my birth certificate.
It was an early.
Your birth certificate.
It was an early. You're still evolution. You were still
Yeah.
young, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I worked in the same place there for 40 years. My brother had a wood shop, because the trade school he went to work with wood.
Woodworking,
So he
okay.
was a cabinet maker. So
So you're a machinist for 40 years? Would you call yourself machinist or something else?
no, machinist.
So what did you make? What were you?
Well,
what were you
the
doing?
little shop that I still go and work there now. It's just they do parts for aerospace.
Yes. Okay.
So
There's still Aerojets. Still.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Still parts of it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Still doing good. So
So you helped the space program.
I certainly did. I have some parts that are on the moon.
Well, tell us about. Tell us about.
yeah,
tell
tell
us
us about-
about. Come on. I mean, come on, Jeff.
Well, if you remember the beginning of the space program, when they sent the rocket up, when the stages were separating, the wires were just ripped apart.
Okay.
You could see on the pictures the wires hanging from one stage to the
They
next
didn't bother
when
to
they separated.
disconnect them.
And then
cleanly.
eventually they invented knives to cut them with powder and
Yeah.
whatever. So the company I worked for made those knives that
They did the
were
cutting.
cutting the wires. Yeah.
See, that goes back when they were pilfering bullets and with the gunpowder and making
Well, yeah.
little stuff. It goes back to then.
So we did. I worked there for Well, I started in '65. So, and I did retire at one time when I was 64.
Uh-huh.
But then 2 years ago now, the guy I worked for. I mean, I used to go back all the time and visit or do a little bit of work once in a while, but very seldom. But when the owner of the company got killed in a car accident, and his daughter wanted to keep the shop going, to keep the other guys employed,
Right.
so she asked me to come back and help, because she knew the office work, but she doesn't know anything about the machine shop part. So I helped with the quotes and the she does the paperwork and.
Well, what other kind of interesting things you worked on? Because I know you used to tell me some of the things you were working on and that just seemed interesting and.
Oh, I did work on some program, because I'm still. People ask me if I'm a citizen. I said, yeah, I'm a citizen, not from this country, but still from Belgium.
Right.
You were
So,
not a citizen?
No, I'm not an American citizen. I'm a Belgian citizen.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Anyways, I never took the test but because I was not a citizen, when I was working on some parts or Aerojet, there was an engineer or somebody from Aerojet watching me work.
Really.
Yeah. For some jobs that
Some
were
jobs that were.
top secret, let's say, at the
Okay.
time.
So you've done top secret stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and not a citizen. That today, just think politically, that would have been just.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm still working there. I'm still doing parts for them now.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
during World War II, my grandmother, she's Italian, right? She was Italian.
Uh-huh.
She wanted to go volunteer to work at the factories. They wouldn't let her.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't a U.S.
Yeah.
citizen. She was Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 20 years later, that was 40 years later, it was okay. So as long as, you know, not all the jobs, but just the ones that they felt were more secret than others, you know, that in the days when they first started to do what we call the platelets, they have very, very thin piece of metal, and they make very intricate cutouts, and then they stack them together, and heat and pressure makes one piece, and then you can make, for an injector, in order to inject liquid and it comes out in a mist
Right.
that
Okay.
distributes and ignites very easily. Then everything is mixed together in a nice little steam.
Just your thing.
Yeah,
What a fit.
Yeah,
What a
so-
fit.
that was fun for me to do, because you start with a piece of metal that's this big around, and you end up with something that's not bigger than this and not longer than an inch and a half long. You know?
Wow. Wow.
All the rest you have to machine out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that career has really been interesting.
Very, to me at least, it
No,
was
for you, yeah,
very, very
just,
interesting to
just
always
now.
do something to, you know. And it's nowadays with I still do not work on the CNC machine,
What's that?
the
computer controlled.
numerical computer control machine. I'm still the old type of machinist that
Hands
does
on- hands on.
everything by hand on
Yeah.
a single tool machine.
With a micrometer.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
He also does something that a lot of machinists can't do, and that's he grinds his own tools.
Yeah. Nowadays, you ask a kid to change the tool, well, they go to the box to get a new one and put an insert in, you know. But
You make your own.
In the beginning, you couldn't do that. You have to grind your own tool. So, and you grind them different.
And it's not easy
depending
to
on.
make a good cut with a
Yeah.
tool. You have to.
Yeah, you have to know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
that's the school I went to. That's what they taught you. You know,
Okay.
the
Okay.
different angles that you do for aluminum or for stainless steel. Well,
So that
Tools are
skill's
different.
lost.
I would say it's pretty much lost, because the kids don't do that anymore. They, you get an insert and you screw it in a holder, and that's it.
That's it. And then
And you get a different insert for different materials. So
right, that one
nobody
wears out,
grinds
they
tool
get a new
anymore.
one. Yeah.
No.
So you could have created all this stuff.
Well, you don't really create it, but you make your own.
You
tool,
make your
don't
own.
you? Yeah.
But I mean, to mass produce this stuff?
Well, the shop that we don't really mass produce. It was a lot of our work was R&D.
Okay.
So sometimes you get runs of a couple hundred parts, but not too often. Most of the
Okay.
time it's 5, 10, 15 maybe.
So you
So
must
it's-
have a lot
it
of.
keeps
You
the
must
job
have a lot of
interesting.
tools then.
Oh yes, you make a lot of tools. You make a lot of tools.
You think you have more than Tony?
Sure, yes.
He has different kind of tools.
Tools.
He has different kind
He's
of
got
tools.
lots of stuff,
Yeah, yes, he
duplicates
does.
and things. You may have even more.
Well, they are different. Let's put it
Different.
that way. Different type of tools.
Wow. So this is all interesting in terms of.
I always thought it was real because he worked with some exotic metals, which
Yeah, yeah.
where they basically take two different metals that you can't weld together, and they
Well,
explode them together, basically.
Sometimes they do that. Yeah, they under pressure and explosion. Now I'm gonna work next week on a totally. I had no clue that you could do that. Fusion welding, and friction welding. I'm
Friction
sorry.
welding,
Friction
okay.
welding. One piece is steady, the other one spins extremely fast and pushes against the other one. So it makes a little bit of noise when you have two pieces of metal grinding against each other. One doesn't move, the other one spins. It gets that hot,
A lot of heat.
and you can weld different metal. Like the piece I'm going to be working is aluminum and titanium.
Okay.
The two pieces welded together.
Normally you couldn't do that. With
No,
the
you
two.
couldn't do
They're
that.
too dissimilar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now
Totally
you know.
dissimilar
Now you
metal.
know where to go if you
I
need.
do.
If
I
you
do.
need that
And
done.
actually, I have a project.
I don't know
for
how
it.
to
They're-
do
You
it.
have a
I
he's
do,
got a
but
project
that-
for you.
I don't know
Be
how to
after
do
the
it,
show.
but I'm going to be machining one of those parts next week. Yeah.
So you won't ever retire.
Well, I don't know. I really enjoy what I'm doing.
That's
you
what
know.
I mean.
It's at home. I work a lot harder physically. But, the yard
Right,
work
yeah.
or whatever.
But
Over
that's
there,
different. That's different. That's
the
different.
machine does the work. Okay, I have to think a little bit, but
Yeah. Well, that keeps
Yeah.
you on top of things
yeah,
because you're using your brain.
yeah. And I still grind my own tools.
You're still good.
Still
I was
grind
never
my own
very
tools.
good at it. Never could grind my own tools very well.
No. Do you ever do it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I took machine shop when I was able to do it in high school, which he
Yeah.
couldn't. He didn't get to. And,
Yeah, but you went to that machine shop for 3 years.
well, because I enjoyed it.
But you were only supposed to go for 2, and
I know, but-
even that third year, you didn't. You didn't.
I wasn't real good at grinding tools. No, I'm not patient enough.
Not patient.
I'm not patient enough.
So you got to be patient, right?
Yes, you have to be patient and really pay attention to what you're doing, because it's it's a little bit dangerous in a way when you are, with a tool, holding a tool in your hand next to the grinding wheel, and you don't want to slip, because that's you
Trim your
lose a knuckle
fingernails,
really
yeah.
quick.
Your fingernails. That's another way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're okay. So let's see. All right, so your first experience on a horse had to be in California then.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
my brother, like I said, had a wood shop, and one of his employees was Dave Poston, which is.
So that's how that's.
I met
okay.
Dave, and I had a daughter the same age like his daughter, and he said, "Why don't you come on over and they can go ride together."
So Dave's good with wood then, right?
Dave is also good with wood,
Yeah,
yes.
wood.
So wood and metals
And wood, well, he's good with metal too, because he repairs
stuff.
old cars and
So you guys
restores
could
old
make
cars.
anything then.
Not about anything, but we can do a lot of things.
Okay.
Huh?
All right. So you met Dave through your brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then.
Then went to Dave's, and he had a piece of property for sale there, right next to him. So eventually moved right next to him, and then eventually got to ride on a horse. And and I still remember my first time with Dave's daughter, going on a, if you want to learn, you might as well go for a long ride right away, and then you learn quick how to pose. So she took me on a 5-mile loop by Folsom Lake. And then, do you remember on the American River 50, the rocky section?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Granby,
that's
yeah,
where
yeah.
we rode.
That's
That's
you
where I
learned.
rode the first time in that section. So after you do that a few times, you become quickly a decent rider. Because,
Okay.
And Rhonda probably didn't ride slow.
Oh no, not in those days either. No.
So Dave Poston is really a key, because Chris talks about Dave Poston. You talk about Dave Poston.
Well, that's where I met all
Yeah.
these guys,
Yeah.
kind of through him.
Yeah.
So did you meet Chris before you met Tony?
Yes.
Okay. Chris is in our audience today, folks.
Wave, Chris.
Wave. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so that's how you met, through these guys through.
Then you-
Yeah, through
Eventually,
endurance riding, and then somehow we ended up over at Dave's doing the Sunday morning runs, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where Tom showed up one morning.
Tom went
and
there too,
Tom
then?
went there
Yeah.
and it's quite a group for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty big
Yeah, it
group
was.
for a long
So
time.
Poston was the key.
It was always that's the way Dave is. You can always go to his house and start from there, but he does very, very seldom goes someplace else. We always start running from Dave's house. That's almost a religious.
Sounds like my running now.
Yeah.
It's always from Frank's house.
That's not always. That's not always.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then all right. So between Dave and his daughter, right?
Rhonda, yeah.
Rhonda, and then 1997. That wasn't your first team up with.
Yeah, well, it would have been whenever that championship was. That was in, I don't know when it was.
The one that you talked about on chapter 2.
97. 97.
Well, that wouldn't have been. No, that was the Mustang Classic.
Mustang
but
Cla-
the first one we did together was he was looking for a partner for Rancho
Rancho, yeah.
Rio Grande.
Rio Grande. That was our
Rio
first one. I don't
What
know.
year?
I have
you
no
know-
idea.
Year?
Is the year on the buckle?
All right. Show the audience.
1993.
Show the audience your buckle.
Oh, buckle. I
Buckle.
don't know if they can see that. See that? Barely.
And Tony was wearing the buckle because of your coming. And so one of the first things Tony said to Jeff, "Where's your buckle?"
Where's your buckle?
Yeah. And I didn't even think about it, Tony. I'm sorry. I still have it, okay? Still have
Still
it.
has it.
It's okay.
And that was when you came in. Would
We came in, I think we just got under the 12, because we were trying to get under the top 25 to get the
Yes,
silver buckle,
yes.
and I think we just
Yeah.
barely made it,
Yeah.
even right, did kind
Yeah.
of screw up at the end.
Well, not just you. The horse decided he didn't really want to go too much. He wanted to take a break at the last
Of the
vet
last
check.
vet check.
Yeah.
was that Comanche?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Comanche, and then we'll get to the 97 race.
Before we go to the finish of that race, one of the reasons we didn't do so good wasn't that I cramped up. Didn't I cramp up on that one?
Well, you might have, but then I tied wrong going into the last vet check. I tied
What'd
too
you do?
early.
Oh,
He told me where to tie, and then I tied. It seemed like it was going too long, so I tied early. And then we get there again. And as soon as he came, why'd you tie there? I tied like 10 feet before. I didn't
Okay.
know they had 8. I tied way too close. And then
yeah.
I think George Hall came by us there, if I can remember right.
Yeah,
somewhere
that's
around
right,
there.
yeah.
George
George
Hall
passed
came
you?
by us, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those crazy things. But you know.
okay. So you met Jeff through Dave Poston, right?
Well,
I
at
might
the
have
time,
known him before then.
endurance riding. That's
Endurance
Endurance
riding.
ride, because he'd be at the endurance rides.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did endurance also,
Yeah,
then?
oh yeah. Before I did the rank, I did
Oh,
quite a few
endurance.
endurance ride. Yeah.
With Comanche or other horses?
Well, I had different horses. You know, I had Red Chicaro that I bought from Dave and did a few rides with him, and then when I bought Comanche, he was a 2-year-old. So you don't ride a 2-year-old Arabian. So for 2 years, all I did was run with him. Whenever I went running, Comanche went running with me on the halter and the lead rope. And you know, it has good things and it has bad things. I'm sure it did something for his cardiovascular system and his, you know, toughen up his legs a little bit. But we don't go in puddles.
Don't go in
I don't
puddles.
go in puddles. I go around the puddles. So Comanche
Goes
goes around
around the
puddles.
Puddles.
And for all his life. Huh, Chris?
You're still going in puddles.
So there were some puddle experiences?
Oh, there's a lot of experience, yes. Oh, God.
What kind of puddle experiences have there been?
It was an endurance ride by Reading. You know, we did that as a ride and tie too in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
Whiskey Town?
Whiskey
Whiskey Town in
Town.
that neighborhood, yeah. I think it was a Whiskey Town 50 or something like that. I'm not sure anymore the name of it. But the start of the race, you have to cross a big, huge creek or a small river.
Not Lassen.
No, it was the Whiskey Town something.
Okay.
And no way. I mean, the start of the race is on the other side of the river. But, you know, you got to cross the river first. A little bit like in Nevada, the one that we did a few times also. The
Derby Ditch?
Derby Ditch.
Derby Ditch.
Where you cross the ditch at the start of the day. Anyways, on that one, Comanche, no way. He was not going to go through. No way. He was. Everybody was just walking through, but no way. But so Dave Poston, who was also doing the race, had a lead rope, or I had a lead rope on my horse, and I'd give him the lead rope, and he's in the middle of the creek, holding the rope behind him,
Trying to get Comanche.
trying to pull Comanche in.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, 1 second Dave is like this, the next one he's like this, and Comanche is on the other side of the creek.
Jumped across the creek.
I think we touched water. I'm
think?
not sure. How we made it in one piece, I don't know. I will never understand. I mean, he went across that thing in one leap in between and he was across. And after that, we did cross water once in a while. Okay.
Across it.
Yeah. we
Not
cro-
through it.
Yeah.
Across it. Okay.
Eventually finished really good on that race. Rhonda and I finished 1 and 2. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did a lot of endurance?
Well, well, a lot, you know, not compared to some people, but we didn't really. I don't know. I like to see the reason Comanche lasted that many years. I think it's I raced him hard when I was racing him, but I didn't do it too often.
Do too often, yeah.
You know, 2, 3, 4 times a year at the most, something like that.
Oh, that's
yeah.
all?
Yeah,
That's all?
we did other ones, but not always racing.
Did you do Tevis?
Yes. Yeah.
With Comanche?
Yes.
How many times?
I think only one time on him,
Okay.
and
Okay.
finished in those days where they still had frontier
Frontier
war.
War, that's right.
That
You
you
did it
could
with
you had to do it without a crew.
Okay.
So did not without.
So you
crew.
didn't beat Comanche up on Tevis then?
No, didn't need to do anything. Well, we still finished 11th,
Okay.
which was very respectable without
That's
a crew.
respectable. Yeah. Yeah.
But he felt good the whole time.
He was
know,
a strong horse.
still
Strong,
remember-
strong
Very
horse.
strong.
Still
horse,
remember
yeah.
sleeping at Francisco, holding the lead rope, sleeping on the bale of hay. I was, and he was just munching around me. And then eventually we went home and crossed the river in daylight still.
So at that point he was crossing water.
Yeah, yeah. He was okay at the end. He was better. He was, puddles. He would still, if he has a way around it, he would go around it. Let's put it that way. But you could talk him into going into water.
So he thinks
Not the ocean though.
he
Not
won't go in the ocean.
No, that was a
That's
different
a big,
water.
That's a big puddle.
Different water.
And it,
different
and it
water.
moves.
And then it moves. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It comes after you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, how did you and Jeff, you guys, decide to team up? How did that happen?
I did it 5 years with Dave, 5 years in a row. Then I was at the time building a house, so I stopped 1 year. So that was when they went to Utah. And then after Utah, I did with you, huh, Chris? Mm-hmm. Yeah, for 4 years. And I don't know what happened after that. Don't even remember how you and I decided to, or.
Well, I teamed up with Dave Andreotti.
Hmm?
I teamed up with Dave.
Oh, you teamed up with Dave Andreotti. So probably was looking for another good runner, superior athlete.
Superior, elite, thin,
elite
with a
runner,
beard,
elite runner. Yeah.
with a beard.
Right.
So you
So
got
Tony
Tony
and I teamed up together, yeah, and
on your horse.
Yeah, we used Comanche.
used Comanche at least
Yeah.
one time, and then the rest after that we use
Used Rambo quite a bit
Yeah.
and Delight a few times,
Yeah.
I think.
yeah,
But mostly Rambo. I think we used him.
yeah.
And
and
then,
then didn't we use Sid one time too?
We used Sid one time, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
that
you're
was-
probably the only one that finished the race with Sid.
Probably.
And me, Sid and I.
Well,
When Sid
that's
was
true.
involved, it was very often somebody did not finish the race.
Yeah. Well, you
because Sid-
finished with the Janine and Tucson on Sid, but
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, well, it was with Sid.
Yeah.
And you know that
yes.
that's what too. Now,
Because I remember Sid tried to take the trailer home with him at
Yeah,
Tucson.
that's right,
He actually moved the trailer. He was tied to the trailer.
Tied, move it.
And he
He wanted to
walked-
go. He wanted to go home.
He wanted to go somewhere.
Yeah, and they go someplace, yeah. Yeah, and he dumped me at the beginning of the race too. Yeah.
Okay.
He managed to throw me off. Luckily, he didn't run away too far this time. So,
So you guys were a pretty good team.
well, we were
we're-
not. We were very steady, like consistent. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way. We,
yeah.
we were not the fast runners, but I still remember
Finished.
one of the first run I made. No, it was with you at the Big Creek, going up the steep hill. One young kid passed me, and what's his name now? You know him too. Anyways, passed me and says, "See you, old man.
See you, old
See you later, old man." As he passes me,
As he passes
running,
you.
At the end of the race, I said, "How are you doing, young man?" When I passed him.
Fast.
You got him. You
Got
got
him, I
him.
did.
You got him. Good. Good. Okay. Well, let's. Maybe we'll come back to this, but you were talking about skeet shooting. You're
My son does trap shooting. Yeah.
all right. Trap shooting.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's tell us about.
Well, I have a son that's 15 years old now, and he likes hunting. But I never did hunt. But Janine's dad, Grandpa, still does it.
Your wife, Janine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Grandpa took him hunting a few times, and then he told him, if you want to be, if you want to be able to shoot at the birds, you need to practice. And the only way to practice is you go to a trap club and you shoot the.
Shoot the
Clay
clay
pigeon.
pigeons.
Yeah. So he did, and you have in some sports, you have it or you don't. what it takes, the hand-eye coordination in order for to
Yeah,
to
yeah.
catch the and shoot that clay pigeon. The people at the club could not believe that he would, get 10 or 15 targets the first time he was shooting out of 25.
Geez, that's good.
You know.
Yeah.
And he had, I mean, they taught him how to do it and how you position your feet and, different places that you go and shoot. And he's a quick learner in that respect.
Was this the fencer?
Yes, yes.
Okay, who met
Yeah.
my grandson? And
yeah.
okay, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, anyways, he got to be, he's one of the top shooter of the Delaware team already in his first year. He's very consistent. He doesn't always get the highest score, but he doesn't never get the lowest score of the team. He's always close to the top. He gets in the 90s. Very, very seldom he goes below 90.
Okay.
So at this age, being a junior varsity, he got an 86 in a really, really bad competition where they started at 8 o'clock in the morning. They were still shooting at 8 o'clock at night in horrible weather.
Okay.
So we got really good score in the morning, but in the afternoon and the evening when the weather got really bad.
Windy.
Windy
Real
and
windy.
raining
And rain.
and cold in Los Banos. Just so, that was the worst show that he had there. But after that, then he gets 95, 97, 97, 98, 99 sometimes. So he's always either 1, 2, 3 or in a shoot-off for one of those places.
So, so in what way do your skills, machine,
I don't know.
translate to shooting for him?
It could be that he got some of the,
Eye-hand?
high-hand coordination.
You have
because-
good eye-hand coordination.
Well, you pretty much have to when you're on a machine.
That's
when
what I
you're-
mean, yeah.
Well, if you're on a grinder, for example, I can go on a grinding machine, turn, the handle
Right, both directions. And
both directions at the same time, and forward and backward, and you put somebody else on that machine. Say, oh, whoa. They cannot make their hands work that way,
pat your head and rub your tummy
Yeah,
at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, the eye-hand coordination. What about the patience?
Well, he is very calm
Very calm.
when he's on the shooting line. Yes,
Okay.
he tells me that he feels the pressure, because, well, people kind of expect him to be doing good because he's always
doing
there,
good, yeah.
So he feels sometimes the pressure, and sometimes he wants to take a couple of weeks break
Okay.
to get away from it all and do something else, and then he comes back without having practice. He can still go back and still shoot in the 90%.
Like riding a bike, right?
Yeah, it's just something that
Does he do anything else? I mean, does he any other activities?
as far as physical activity.
Physical,
no,
yeah.
no,
Just the
No.
trap
Yeah.
shooting.
trap shooting. Yeah. I mean, he does PE in school, but
Right, yeah, but
he
not
did
yeah.
try basketball. He did try football. The only thing is, what I liked about this one, and he liked it too, because every other sport we never stopped him from trying anything. But it was always dad or mom saying you should go and practice. Well, when he started trap shooting, he said, "Dad, can you take me?"
Different.
So
Different. Yeah,
something
different.
he liked.
Something he liked.
Yeah.
So
So he didn't get into the horses?
no. Well, we did take a horse vacation in Montana one time, and he rode for a week. But somehow he's not really interested in keeping.
Do you still have horses?
I will still feed horses. Yes,
Sounds familiar.
Feeding
Yeah,
horses.
feeding horses.
I still feed horses.
How many?
Well, Janine and Jackie still do ride once in a while. I know they would like to ride a lot more. It's incredible the amount of time that required for the high school kids in the different activities that they do. That luckily, well, Eric can. That's why he does only the trap because
No runners.
no runners in the no. They believe me, Eric and Jackie both. I mean, they did in school. They had to do their mile or mile and a half that
Right.
they had to run. But no, not for me, Dad. Well, Eric rides a little bit of bike, dirt bike.
Okay.
You know, by Granite Bay, there's a few trails there.
Mm-hmm.
He's fighting a serious case of poison oak right now. That he went with shorts and didn't take a shower. You know, and he got scratches all the leg
All
and
on
well,
the leg.
and then behind his knee. That's the hard one, right behind the knee. So not a good spot there.
Okay.
But that's
See, when the kids say, "Take me,"
yeah,
then you
Yeah.
then you know
yeah. It's a
Then
whole
you know.
whole different ball game. You know,
you're not
he
forcing.
enjoys it. You don't force him.
You don't have
I,
to.
you know, just that's the nice part. You can see that he's really enjoying the sport, and the it's the only sport. Nobody sits on the bench there. Everybody shoots.
Okay.
Whether you're good or not good,
Okay.
Everyone
everybody's
shoots.
on the line. You know, so that's
That's better.
good. Yeah,
that's
it's
better.
really a good sport in that respect.
You're
And
not
they
s-
get along really good. They help each other. You know, the good like Eric is a good shooter. He knows when a kid does something wrong. Well, you know, he tells him.
Okay.
And he does it to an adult just the same. If an adult does something that's not safe, he's going to stop and go and talk to him.
Okay.
You know, you're doing something that's totally unsafe. It's really, you know.
So all
If you-
these teenagers have guns and no one has been killed yet.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. yeah.
That's good. Well, Tom's boy also shoots.
Tom.
Yeah, Tom Christoph.
Christoph's, yeah.
Yeah.
The strap
Yeah.
too.
Do you compete against them too, or?
They are Eric and Colton are in a different division. Eric
Different
is
division.
still junior varsity and Colt is varsity, but they were on the same team in Auburn. You know,
Okay.
when before they went to high school. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
anyway, yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience that we missed? Because we only have a couple minutes left.
Well, you know, I don't know what else would you want to talk about.
Maybe Tony.
Maybe Tony has
Tony?
some idea of what.
What did we
just
miss? What did
Ride
we-
and tie stories is all. You know, we ran.
Well, you ran a
for
lot
5
together.
years together.
Yeah.
We did them
Yeah.
together for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
We ran together for a long time.
Did long distance
long distance running,
races. Yeah,
which I always got to give because we're all both very quiet on the trail. We
Yeah.
don't talk a lot. It was always kind of funny, and I've told Frank this about running down the trail, and we'll ask something about what our thoughts is, and we both say winning races.
Yeah.
You're-
One day, you know, wake up one day and have those legs
That's
on our
right.
body.
Chris
you
is-
know,
Chris
when we were
is-
young.
yeah.
And he was young. Wouldn't that be nice?
Okay.
Just a lot of good times.
Okay.
A lot of,
Well, really appreciate you coming on the show and going back to being a kid.
Yep.
Being a kid in Belgium. Yeah. Do you ever go back
Lately I've been trying to go back almost every year.
every year?
Yeah. At least I've done it for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm not sure I'm going to go this year. I may skip this year, even though I don't like to. My brother is, 80, 84. So still doing okay health-wise, but, no more. He's the only one of the old generation that they have left there. The rest of them are his children, and then, sure, I have a lot of cousins, but
Okay. Okay. Thank you for watching. See y'all later.
take care.
We're done.
We're done, huh?
We're done.
Went by quick, didn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
That was good.
What? It was?
Yeah, it was really good.
Thank you, Chris.